All right, everybody, welcome back. So I know I haven't really done a lot of videos in the last few weeks, few days because of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, everything like that. Also, today I'm recording off my iPhone. I wanted to just go down to my sukkah, but I just went down there, and there's a random guy sitting in there eating lunch because my sukkah's on the street, so anybody can come inside and use it. So I'm just going to make this video in my office, and today is Rabbeinu Nachman's Yortzeit. Baruch Hashem, his neshama should have a big aliyah, and his chus should be a merit for all of us and everything like that. I just want to read over here in the sefer Yemey Moharnat, which is Rav Noson's autobiography, where he explains and writes down exactly what happened the last few days of Rabbeinu Nachman's life, the few last weeks. So it might be a little bit of a long video. It starts from right before Rosh Hashanah and it goes until when Rabbeinu Nachman died, which is the third day of Chol Hamoed, which is today. So we're just going to read it. I'm just going to try to read through it in English, even though it's in Hebrew. Somebody might know the story, but there's some details here. So let's see. I might skip over a few parts that just repeat themselves here, but let's see what's going on. So it starts over here, and it says like this. It says, I hope I'm looking at the right place in this camera. I don't even know where I'm looking anymore, but whatever, it's all good. So it says over here, at Rabbeinu Nachman's last Rosh Hashanah of his life, which was in Uman, which was his only Rosh Hashanah in Uman. And that year, Rosh Hashanah was on Shabbos Kodesh. He was very, very weak that day. On the first day of Rosh Hashanah, which is Shabbos, just like this year, the first day of Rosh Hashanah was Shabbos, which doesn't happen so often, by the way. And a lot of blood was coming out of his mouth when he was coughing. He was very, very sick already at that time. And he was very scared, he was trying not to cough because every time he coughed, there was a lot of blood coming out. A lot of blood, and he was extremely weak because he was coughing up blood. So that's what happens. And his darkei Hoysa Tamid was to say Torah. Rabbeinu Nachman used to say Torah at the end of the first day, after Mincha, before Ma'ariv. He would sit down and say Torah for all the Hasidim, and that's what they still do today in Uman. All the big tzaddikim, the big mashpiyas, they say Torah or whatever. And everybody was already gathered. So the end of the first day, before the second night of Rosh Hashanah, everybody was already gathered inside the house where Rabbeinu Nachman was staying, this Bayis Gadol, this big house. And he was getting ready, and they were all waiting for him to say Torah. And there was it was very, very stuffy. There was a lot of people there. Everybody was pushing on top of each other. I'm just like paraphrasing. I can't read every single line here because it's a long, long story. And they were all waiting to hear Rabbeinu Nachman's Torah, and there was a lot of people in this room. Okay, and Rav Noson writes that we were all standing there waiting there, and I was also waiting there. And then they sent me from Rabbeinu Nachman's rooms that he wanted me to come see him. So I went to Rabbeinu Nachman's room, and he started talking to me about what was going on. And he was basically saying, first of all, he was sitting there with a bowl of copper that he would be spitting blood into and coughing blood up into, and it was like full. That's how weak he was. That's how crazy the situation was. And he was basically saying to me, Rav Noson, what do I do? It's basically impossible for me to say Torah right now. I'm too weak, right? So I said to him, okay, so if it's impossible, so then it's impossible. But then Rabbeinu Nachman said, but I have a lot of rachmanos on all the people that came, to travel from all over the place, and also just Stam who already live in Uman, who are already waiting for a few hours ready for me to say Torah. How can I not say Torah? And he said also himself, Rabbeinu Nachman said, the whole entire summer I was waiting and ready to say Torah in Uman on Rosh Hashanah, and he had a lot of he basically, Rav Noson writes that he realized that he had a lot of ratzon to say this Torah, so he started speaking to him, and he said to him also, when you came back from Lemberg. One time Rabbi Nachman traveled to the city of Lemberg to have a refuah there also, and when he came back, he was also very weak, and he did say Torah at the end. So he gave him a lot of chiyus and a lot of chizik to say Torah. So until Rabbi Nachman said, Im kain emsor nafshi, he said, if so, then I'll give over my soul. Basically, he's saying that I'm going to give over my neshama. Even if I die, it's worth it for me to say Torah right now. But he had one condition, that he wanted his chair that he said to say Torah, and that he would sit down and say Torah on. He wanted it to be placed right next to the door of his room, so that if he comes into a sakana, or if he has to go into his room, he could just go right in, and that's it. They could take him out right away, fast. There was because there was a lot of people there, and it was very stuffy, and it was very intense. And it was a whole thing, because people were already standing in the place that he wanted his chair to be in, but Rav Noson came out, because Rabbi Nachman said that if you don't put the chair there, then I'm not coming. So Rav Noson went in there, and he made a big Rahash Gadol, and he spread everybody out, and he put the chair there, and Rabbi Nachman came out. And he came out, and we stood there, and it was very quiet, and there was a lot of people there, but people were making noise because there was a lot of pushing. Everybody wanted to come closer, to the Rebbe. Imagine what the scene was like back then, Probably it was probably very hot in there also. It was probably really intense. What's it called? And he started, and then it says over here, he sat there and he was very weak, and Achar he opened up his mouth, and he started saying Torah. But he was saying it in such a low voice than he was used to saying, because he was extremely weak. And Rav Noson writes that there was no natural way ever that he would be able to say such a long Torah. The way that he looked, Rav Noson was like, there's no way that he's going to be able to finish this. Once he started hearing the way that Rabbi Nachman was talking in such a low, weak voice, he said that it wasn't there was no possible way that he would ever finish this. But Hashem had Rachmanis, and Rabbi Nachman finished saying this Torah, which we know is this Torah number. It's Ches in Likutei Moharan Tinyana, Tiku B'Chodesh Shofar, and the Siyama Torah, how it's all in the pasuk of Tiku. He didn't finish saying that part until after Yom Kippur. Okay, and he went. Sorry, it's called Tiku Toichacha. Okay, but I think the pasuk is also about Tiku B'Chodesh Shofar. And then he's told everyone to sing, and afterwards he went from there back to his room. And just a little side point over here is that I'm sure people who know a little bit about Breslov know about who Hirsch Ber is. Hirsch Ber was one of the Apikorsim who lived in Uman, who became close to Rebbe Nachman. And we actually, in fact, Rav Noson writes somewhere else, it's also in Siach Rafi Kodesh, other places, that since there was such a packed room and everybody was pushing and shoving, whatever, that Rav Noson actually missed a few parts of this Torah, and he actually reviewed it over with Hirsch Ber, because Hirsch Ber was like this wealthy chashuv guy that nobody wanted to mess with, so nobody was pushing him, and he was standing right next to the Rebbe, so he was able to actually hear clearly. So we have some of the Torah because of him. Anyway, so then it was the second night of Rosh Hashanah, and he was very, very weak, and they wanted to call all the different doctors, and he didn't let them, and he said whoever's worried about their life should never have a doctor come to them. And even if a person himself calls the doctor, you shouldn't let him come into the room. So that's a different conversation about doctors and Rebbe Nachman. And Rav Noson was very misnagi that they called this doctor, whatever it was, and everything like that. And that's what happened. And the second day of Rosh Hashanah, he didn't daven with us. He didn't eat with us. On the first day, he did daven with them. And Rav Noson is going through the whole schedule of what was going on over here. And after Rosh Hashanah, everybody came to speak to him, and he gave everybody rishus to leave. Everybody was telling, he was telling each chassid and what to do, what his avodah was for that year. And nobody had it on their mind that Rebbe Nachman was going to die in a week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever it was, or else they wouldn't have left. Right? He said even his daughters and his son-in-laws, everybody, they all came for Uman for Rosh Hashanah, but now they all left. They were all going back home, because it didn't even come to their head that they was okay, fine, he's weak and he's coughing up blood. but they thought, he's a big tzaddik, whatever, he can come through this, whatever it was. What's it called? But he said that Rav Noson writes that the truth is that we didn't realize, but he was making a lot of hints to his death, but we were not. But since we have many sins, we weren't paying attention to this, right? We were, and it was in our eyes, as if we're like, how could Hashem do something to us like this? There was no way. So we didn't. We didn't think anything. So everybody left. Well, Rav Noson, of course, stayed. He said. And he said, So then what do you do? Right? So then Rav Noson went, it says over here, Reish Dalid, Shai Tafsa Nifla. Okay, so he went with all the different Chassidim and also with Hirsch Ber. It doesn't say Hirsch Ber, but it's pretty much known. But yeah, he went around to all the different Chassidim, and they went over this whole Torah, and they got all the parts together, and he wrote it all down, and he wanted to show it to Rabbi Nachman before Yom Kippur, but he wasn't able to, right? And he didn't have enough azas to actually go in and start speaking to him. And then it says over here that on Erev Yom Kippur we went into him, and he blessed us, all these things, and he was very holy. It was great fear and embarrassment that fell onto everybody who went inside to get a bracha from him on Erev Yom Kippur. And he says, he says, and Rav Noson writes, it's impossible to describe how holy his face was at that time. We're very praiseworthy that we were zeicha to get his bracha before he died. And then on Yom Kippur, he didn't come in to daven with us. He only davened in his room. And by Ne'ilah, we didn't know who was going to daven. So we said, okay, let's go ask the Rebbe, and I went with Rav Naftali. We went into his room, and he was like, no, what do you want? And they were like, who's going to daven, who should daven for the Amid? And he was like, nah, you guys, I don't really care anymore, just you guys do your own thing, whatever. And then on Motzei Yom Kippur, we went into him, and he was very weak, and he wasn't so happy about that. The day after Yom Kippur, which was the Tuesday, just like this year. This is the same schedule this year. Shabbos was on Yom Kippur was Sunday night, Monday, so Tuesday was the day after Yom Kippur. We went into him, and he was in a good mood. He was in a Simcha Dika mood. And Rav Noson said, I didn't daven yet. I didn't daven chakras yet. And after I went back from chakras, I went into him by myself, and he was talking to people still. And he was giving a lot of chizuk to the Anshe Teplik, to the Chassidim from Teplik who were there. And he was talking with all of us with a lot of simcha and love and everything like that. And afterwards, I went out from that room into a different room, and his brother, Rabbi Yechiel, was there. He had another brother, Rabbi Yechiel, besides Rabbi Yisrael, and with some other Chassidim. And I really wanted him to go, show him these Torahs. I wanted to show him the Torah I wrote down to make sure it was all correct. But I didn't have enough azas to kedusha to do this, and I spoke to Rabbi Yechiel, and Rabbi Yechiel gave me chizuk to go and do these things. And he said, "Go in, don't worry about it. He won't see it." So he went inside, and I showed him these contrasim that I wrote down, and he saw them well, and he made some corrections where I made a mistake or where I left some things out. And there were some other inyanim, shaloi zichartim v'lo kizavtim klal k'ma'in roshana. And also the Indian about the lungs, which also was part of that Torah that Rabbi Nachman explained. And he went through the whole entire Torah with me, and in a very, very happy way. And it was amazing, right? And then he said, after that, Achshav, let's talk about the actual pasuk, because he didn't explain how the pasuk of Tiku, B'chodesh Shofar, goes into this whole Torah. And and after Yom Kippur, I was zeicha that he explained to me the way the pasuk is, and he explained all these things. And this was the last time that Rabbi Nachman ever said Torah in his life. That little conversation that he had with Rav Noson, explaining the pasuk, Ki acher kaf lo yomer oid shum Torah. He didn't say any other Torah. Right. So Rav Noson now goes on to say that he was thanking Hashem that he was able to get this Torah and all these things, and he showed him how all of his Torahs works and the inyanim and how they're all built and everything like that. And it was very good. It was all the simcha. He was talking to other people. That day was a very good day. So then the next day, which after Yom Kippur, he had to go into a different dira from the dira that he was sitting on Yom Kippur. So it says over here that when he came into Uman, he was first in the house of Rav Noson, and then he was in a different dira in a different house. And then he was in this one big house that he wanted it to be for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur because everybody davens him on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, right? So now he went to a different house, and what's it called? And he went to this different house. And that's the house that he went into. This house that he went into, now that's where he died. And we went to the house. We started setting up the room again with the bed and the furniture and all these different things like that. And we were putting his bed in different places. Rav Noson writes, and wherever we put his bed, it wasn't. He didn't like it. He was like, no, that's not the right place for my bed. So after Rav Noson took the drawers, the set of drawers that were there, whatever it was, some closet, and he moved it and he put the bed there, and then he said, fine, that's the bed. And in that exact space, and he died on that bed in that exact spot. And I understood limafreya that that's why he was being medactic where the bed is exactly supposed to be, because he says that the nekudas hamakom, the point, the actual place where he's supposed to die, was ready and prepared for him from the days of creation, from the Shanim Kadmani as Mikfarlaza. Sorry, not from 6 days of creation, but from way back. Okay. And then he says that when they went to this house, then his whole mood changed, and he was not happy again. He wasn't smiling, whatever. And then again, I show him this Torah, and he explained over here more things about this Torah, so I was able to get it more clear. And all these days he was very weak, and so then I spent from Tuesday to Thursday going over this Torah by myself and writing it all out. What's it called? And also, Rav Noson writes over here that there was a sefer by me to also go to my house for Sukkos. I didn't want to, because of course, like they said before, that they didn't think that Rav Noson, that he was going to die. But Hashem had Rahmanas on me, and I didn't go at the end, because, at least I was there when he was nifter. Then on Thursday, the day before Rosh Hashanah, I came again to him, and Rav Naftali was there, and he was very weak, and Rav Naftali already said that I already sent for a doctor, and I got very angry at him, because, we knew they're not supposed to work to, use doctors. There's more stories to tell about this, but it's not the right place. But eventually everybody was niskabra on me, and the doctor came, and the doctor did not help at all. And he even brought his death even closer. And from that time onwards, we did not move from him at all. And that night, which was Leil Shishi, Thursday night, Erev Sukkos into Friday, I slept over there. And he also set up his will before me, his tzava. He wanted to give 300 meis adumim, 300 coins, whatever, rubles, whatever it was, to his daughter Chaya, and to his wife Ksuba. And he said, I have more to say. Right? He said, I said to him, no, you don't have to say anymore. You're going to marry your daughters off. It'll be fine. Right? Because I didn't want to, Rav Noson was like, I didn't want to realize that he was really going to, to be nifter soon. He was trying to avoid that. But he said, but Rabbeinu Nachman said, Eitzel Hashem Yisbarach Hakol Afshar. Right? It's very possible. Maybe I'll live. By Hashem, everything is possible. And he said the last 3 years he lived by Nes. And then he said to me, also you should also say something, but you're a very, very small people. That's what he said to the Rav Noson and the Chassidim. So then Rav Noson said, if so, that we're such small people, then for sure you have to have Rahmanas on us. And you for sure need to live longer. And again, he said, Eitzel Hashem Yisbarach Hakol Efshar. Ka'imar, meaning what? That I know that I'm coming to die, but it's very possible that Hashem will, change something, because everything is possible in front of Hashem. This was all on Thursday night. And this whole entire night, it was a big Rosh Gadol, because every time this Chulshus came, there was a lot of blood and everything. And and that was when they came to the doctor early in the morning, whatever, on Friday morning. Okay, fine. And on Friday morning, that he said to us to find him this chair that he could sit on now, a different chair, that he wanted some good chair that he could sit on, like lay down on, kind of, whatever. And Hashem helped us, and we found this great chair, and we bought him this chair. And we saw in the Nifloyas that on Friday morning he sat down on the chair. And he put on a talis and tefillin that day, and he sat on basically that chair until Motzei Shabbos, which was Shuhu Yom Rishon de Sukkos, right? The first day of Sukkos was Shabbos. He sat there the whole entire day on this chair, right? But on Friday he put on tefillin, and he was sitting there with his talis tefillin, and he started coughing up a lot of blood, and he commanded me, Rav Noson, to hold on to his head before he died. Like he was like, I'm going to die. Like Rav Noson held on to his head, and he didn't die. And B'chastei Hashem, his health came back, or his life came back, and he sat there until Motzei Shabbos. Okay, and that whole time, one second, they were talking about this, and they were whatever. The whole Friday was going about how weak he was and everything like that. And that whole day, Friday night, Shabbos day, Sukkos, the Shabbos day, which was Sukkos also, he sat over there, and he was sleeping a little bit on the chair. He was sitting on the chair, speaking to us on the chair, and we were switching shifts to watch him and all these things. They put him in talis. He didn't go into the sukkah because he was too weak. And after he davened, a lot of people went in. Etzloi, l'kal panov piregel, and he spoke a little bit to each one, and that was that, right? Motzei Shabbos. Motzei Shabbos, they asked him to take him off the chair and put him onto his bed. There's a whole story over here. It was nothing. It's in parentheses, so I'm just gonna go over there. And now he starts talking about why he wants to be buried in Uman. He says, Achakach, he said to me, Rav Noson, in a little voice, he says, you remember the story I told you? And I stood there, shaking, and I was like, which story? Because, Rav Noson heard every story. So he said the story that I told you when we came into here. And I was very confused and like shaking, because I remember the story that he told about the Indian of the Baal Shem Tov, that there was one time the Baal Shem Tov came to a town, and there was a lot of neshamas there that were waiting for a tikkun, and the Baal Shem Tov realized that the only way that he was going to be able to fix these neshamas was by dying, and he ended up taking someone else to die instead. I think that's how it works. And I'm not sure. I have to look in Chaim Ran Siman Kuf Tzadik, but that's not even the story. But he said over here, because and I stood there mishtoim and marid, and Rav Noson and Rabbeinu said in Yiddish, "Mehot shoin langa rois gekukt oif mir, mezol mich der tafen har, was zil ich ein sagen, Alafim revoves. And in Hebrew, English, it means that this is it's been a very long time already that they're already trying to get me here to Uman, to be over here, because here there are in Uman surrounding us right now, there's thousands and thousands of neshamas that need a tikkun, right? And that's why he has all these sufferings now. And he needs to be buried here to be mitakin all these different souls that are there. And afterwards he turned his face to the wall and he says, Hareini moiser nafshi, I am willing to give up my soul to be mitakin all these things, to be mitakin these people. I'm ready to go, give my soul to Hashem so I can be able to be mitakin. Because we spoke, Rav Noson says we heard a lot about the tikkun haneshamos and all these different things. in the Torah of Boaz al-Rus, the master of the field, the Baal Asada, and all these different things. And then the night of Yom Shlishi, which was the who revealed the Sukkos, the fourth day of Sukkos, right? The third day of Chol Hamoed, fourth day of Sukkos, who Yemey Moharnat shel Yemei Kodesh. Right, until that night, we stood in front of him, me and Rav Naftali and Rabbi Shimon. And when we heard the Simcha about the souls, Rav Naftali wasn't there because he was sleeping. And then he spoke again about this Indian of the neshamas, Mashatzar Letakin, all these different neshamas that he needed to be metakin here. And he said how holy they are here. And what's it called? And then Rav Naftali said to him, he said that, but you said in the Torah of Boaz al-Rus, Torah Samachei, in the Kutim Ran, he said that even a big tzaddik is able to be metakin neshamas when he's alive. Why does he have to die? And Rabbeinu says, "Lo yamarti lechem ki eze bechina mizeh, ki hechach ulestak b'shul zeh." That was one bechina, but I'm in a different bechina that I need to go die for this. And v'achar kach, his kiratzmai, he took the mafteach of the drawers, and he gave it to them, and he said that right when he dies, he should and they put him on the ground. He should take all the writings that he has inside the drawers over there and burn all of them. And he said, you have to do this. He warned us to do this a lot. And he took the key and he stood there shaking and confusions and all these different things. And he was already whispering, he's ready to go. And everybody was whispering that and he said, what are you guys all whispering? He says, you can speak about my death in front of me. I already know it's coming and I'm not scared. And he says, then he said to him, then Rabbi Nachman said to the Chassidim, he says, Efshar atem midabrim al oide seichem, right? Maybe you guys are talking about what's going to be with you. He says, you have nothing to worry about when I'm already going in front of you, right? These neshamas that don't know me at all, so they're mitzapim on my ticket, they're waiting for my ticket, mikol shkinatem, but these guys already died beforehand, so fine. So then there's something I need to deal with them, whatever. But yesh ezi Yigi. I'm not sure what that means, but he says, he says, what do you have to worry about? He says, what do you have to worry about? I'm already going in front of you, I'm going to work everything out for you. Ein lechem l'Yisrael klal. We heard about these, and we heard more these very holy sayings from him, about the neshamas and about his death. And this was all during the night when Rav Noson was sleeping. This is what they told Rav Naftali, this is what he told Rav Naftali and Rav Shimon. And then I woke up and I came there, and Rav Naftali were still staying there, and and then Rav Naftali told me exactly what was going on over there, that he already gave him this key to, do all these things. And I stood there, that he's becoming ready to, pass away. But still, he Rav Noson was like, Hashem's not going to do this, and he's for sure going to live, right? How could Hashem take the light of all the lights from the world now, right? He says, and with our great sins, we lost what we lost. Right? Because if we knew that he was going to die, then we would have hacked him up, tell us more stuff. Because his will, Rav Noson writes that there should be isra usa tilasato, that we should awaken him to say certain things, and we do, and we weren't paying attention that he kept on saying he's going to die, so we didn't understand what to do. And all that things happened. Then he told Rav Naftali to go, and everybody was to go to sleep. This was still the middle of the night-ish. And I stood there the whole entire night, Rav Noson said, and everybody was sleeping. And he was looking at us and all these different things. And then afterwards, he commanded me to bring him. This was back on the chair again, to his bed. And I took him from there. And most of his body and his head were like on me. I was carrying him, and I brought him to the bed. And when I brought him to the bed, and he says, "Laat laat, slow, slow," and Rav Noson was like wondering, like, why does he have to say that? Of course, I would put him back on the bed slowly, but Rabbeinu says, "Ani kaverata, I'm already heavy," right? Because when a person is close to his death, he's already heavy, because his life already starts leaving his body, so his body becomes heavier. It was already, I already knew he was close to dying. And I was staying there. Well, it's a pretty long thing. 30 minutes in, boys. Let's take a drink. Sorry, I already made a bracha beforehand. Wow. So then I said to Rav Noson said, I said to Rebbe Nachman, take something a little bit, to make yourself feel good. And he says, what are you going to give me? He said, I'll give you a little bit of tea. And he said, with Chol Hamoed Beitza, with egg yolk in it, right? Because they would give him hot tea with the Chol Hamoed Beitza, which would take away the cough. And I did this, and I gave it to him. And also give him a little bit of, he said to also give him a little bit of water, and I washed his hands, and I took the tea, and he said that's too hot, right? Because he couldn't drink it also so hot, because that would also make him cough a lot. And Rav Noson said I put the tea from one cup to another cup to make it cold, which is how you do things. And I gave it to him, and I made it colder because he said it was still too hot. And I did this a bunch of times until it was good, and then he'd take it, and he made a bracha, and he'd drink. And then I stood over there until the day came, and I was very happy I was able to mishamish him like this, right? And all these people started waking up, the misharis and all these different things. So I went to the mikvah to be, to get myself ready for davening. And it was the third day, today, Tuesday, the fourth day of Sukkos. I came back to his room when I came out from the mikvah. He was on his bed, and he was davening. And afterwards, he took the lulav and the esrog, and he also had a siddur of the Arizal there. And he finished the Hallel with the Arvaminim, and he said the Hishanas b'kol ram k'tzas, with a little bit of a loud voice. And Ashrei Naim shezochu lira yisai. And praiseworthy of eyes were able to see this. And then after this, I left, and he still didn't believe that he was going to die. He said, Rav Noson was speaking to people, like, don't worry, we mechazik ourselves. And he still went, and he went out, and he went to his place to eat a little bit. I lay down a little bit, and I even wrote a little bit of Torah. And afterwards, the Baal Bayis came, and I ate with him. Because now I didn't know what to do. What should I do? Should I go back? I didn't know what to do with Rebbe Nachman. He says, but the truth was, he said, right, this is before he went to sleep. He said, but the truth is that it's impossible to do anything without sleep. So if I don't go to sleep now, what am I going to do? Right? And I went to sleep. So he went to sleep. So I think he went to sleep, and then he went back to Rebbe Nachman's house. Okay, fine. And I came to Rebbe Nachman's house, and it was very big Rosh Gadol, and he was sitting on a chair. Al Nishmasoi, he wasn't able to sit on the chair anymore. He was already passing out. And they were pouring on all these types of besamim and oils and smells and everything. was very nivhal. And I said that we should move into the bed, but he motioned with his hand not to do that. And then afterwards, a little bit later on, I saw that it was impossible for him to sit on the chair anymore. He was like mamish gone already. And I again said, let's bring him to the bed. And he was quiet. He didn't say no, not. And I took him, and we took him, and they took him to the bed. And when he was laying on the bed, I grabbed his hand, and I hugged his hand. He was sleeping in his begadim, in his beautiful garment, a silk garment, and he commanded Rav Shimon, his gabbai, one of the gabbayim, to dress him up very nicely. Cross him, I don't know. Okay. I don't know, there was like some sleeve was sticking out from one of the other layers, and he said to put it back in, and he was making himself look very nice. They told him to wash his beard, because there was some blood on it from the coughing, and they washed him up, and he was sitting there in the Chayras Gadol, in great freedom. He was ready. And he took this little ball of wax, and he was moving it in between his fingers, and he was thinking big holy thoughts. When he used to do this thing with the wax and think about holy thoughts. He was doing these things, whatever he was thinking about, and he was very clear, and it was ready. And he gave him a little bit of roitiv lechol, some sauce to eat, some soup, and he washed his hands and he ate. They gave him again. He wasn't able to eat more. And then it was about now it talks about the fire. So there was some fire outside that happened. Now all of a sudden, while this was all happening, there was this crazy fire out there, and right next to his house, there was this great wind, which was not normal at that time. It was like breaking stuff, and then the sukkah fell down, and everybody was running to the fire. And I didn't know what to do, because maybe I should go help with the fire or not. And I went over there, and when I went there, Hashem had Rahmanas on me that the fire already went down, so I didn't have to go, be with the fire. I can go back to Rebbe Nachman. And I went back to him, and there was a lot of people from the town surrounding him. They started saying Maver Yaboik, which is psukim that are noig to say at the time that the neshama goes out, that they say on tzaddikim. And then I was starting crying, like, Rebbe, don't leave us. And he woke up a little bit, and then he said, I'm never going to leave you, chas v'shalom. V'achach loy nisma maharbe v'yigva v'yasif al amav b'kiddush b'tar g'dayla b'li shum bilbul klal b'li shum tunu mishuna b'shav das, that he just died, and he passed on, but in a very beautiful way. And all the people who were staying there, which was the Roiv of the Anshe, the Chevra Kedisha, and all the Gedolim, and these other Tzaddikim and Shamashim, or all these people who knew these things, they said that they already saw many people who died b'nikiyas u'b'das, with cleanliness and knowledge, but the way that Rabbi Nachman died, they never saw this way before. That's kind of interesting to know. This is according to what we know, but according to Rav Noson writes, this is only according to what we know in our heads. But be'etzem istalchusoi ein lanu peh ledaber. Hiles mashchava tfisa b'zeh klal. Our minds can't even grasp what was going on when he died. Right? Because what does it really mean when Rabbi Nachman died? And then there was a big Rash Gadol, and there was Bechir Gedolah, and everyone was crying. There was no woman in the house. Also, when he died, which is also very interesting, because there was no woman there because his daughters already went after Rosh Hashanah, and his wife also wasn't there because she didn't want to go into the room, because she didn't really want to cry about him because she was his second wife and she didn't really have any hischabros imoy bichlal. They never really lived with each other, so she just cried in her room. And his soul went out with Kedusha Gedayla, and we took off his clothing. And Rav Shimon went and he took the key of these drawers and he took out all the ksavim that he never gave over to us in his life, these holy secret Torahs. And there was a lot of svarim and kutresim, and we took all of them. We went to a different room, which was a tanor. There was an oven there, and we burnt them. And I went with him also. Rav Noson went to that room to at least breathe in some of the smoke from this Torah that was burning, that we're never going to know. And afterwards, after we burnt them, we went back to his room, and we found him on the ground. Because when we were in the other room, they already put him on the ground, and his face was revealed, and he was kind of smiling even a little bit. And it's impossible to explain what was going on there. V'nestalik, and this is the last part over here I was going to say. He said he died on the third day of the week, which is Tuesday, the fourth day of Chol Hamoed, Chai Tishrei, Tavkuf Ayin Aleph, Lefrat Katan, Achar Chatzos Yom Ezer Shois. After a few hours after Chatzos, in Tziyach Shai V'Kodesh says around 3 o'clock. And he learned Tzitzi Lazar Sheitzis the Kfur Miyad, and I didn't want him to that we should bring him out to the Kfur right away, because I didn't want to separate from him yet. And we waited to bury him at least until the next day on Yom Reviv. That's where we're going to stop over here, but whoa, bro, that was pretty wild. So I hope you guys enjoyed that little video, 42 minutes long, and I should just try to keep on being inspired to Rebbe Nachman and learn his Torahs and Eitzes and the simplicities, and he should be a great Mele Tzioser for all of us in Klal Yisrael, and hopefully we'll all be able to go to Uman this year again. Whoever wants to go, people are there now, and be by Uman Rosh Hashanah next year, hopefully Be'ez Hashem, and COVID goes away and all these different things, and just givaldik. Anyway, it should be a good Sukkos. Everyone should have a good day, good Chol Hamoed. Chaim.